I still remember the exact weight of the air that morning, thick with August humidity and that strange tension that sometimes creeps into your bones before something breaks. I was standing in the kitchen pouring coffee into my old Army mug, the one with the chipped handle and the faded logo from Fort Bragg, when I looked over and saw her, my wife, Cassie, stretching in the living room in those black leggings she always wore on gym days. She didn't notice me watching her. Or maybe she did and just didn't care anymore. I'd spent 20 years in the military, 8 of them overseas, 2 tours in Afghanistan, 1 in Iraq. I'd seen good men die, seen shit I wish I could carve out of my brain with a dull spoon. But coming home, that was supposed to be the reward. Cassie had stuck by me through all of it. She raised our daughter, she ran the house, she sent care packages even when I didn't answer her letters for weeks. She was the reason I survived, or so I thought. We met back in 2003. I was a 20-year-old infantryman with no clue how to talk to women, and she was working at a diner near base. She had this smile, the kind that makes you forget where you are for a second. We got married in less than a year. Everyone said we were rushing it, but back then, war made everything urgent. You didn't know if you'd come back. We built something, or at least it felt like we did. A house in Fayetteville, modest but ours. A daughter, Ellie, smart as hell, plays the cello, wants to go to Duke. And most recently, a gym, Iron Harbor. Cassie's idea. We opened it together a year after my last deployment. I used my veterans benefits, and she took out a small business loan. It was supposed to be our future, our clean slate. At first, it was good. I ran the weightlifting programs, worked with some of the younger guys coming out of the Army. Cassie handled the books, hired the trainers, taught yoga in the mornings. We were a team again. But something started to shift about 6 months ago. She began spending more time at the gym than at home. Said she had to keep things running, but would come home late, exhausted, not wanting to talk. Sex stopped. Not all at once, but gradually, like someone slowly turning down the volume until you don't even notice it's gone. I chalked it up to stress. Business ownership is hard. But the distance between us, it grew. I'd wake up and she'd already be gone. I'd go to bed and she'd still be scrolling on her phone, face lit up by messages she said were from vendors. I didn't want to be that guy, the suspicious husband, the paranoid veteran, but the gut doesn't lie, and mine was screaming. Then came Nate, 27, former college athlete turned personal trainer, good-looking in that cocky, I-post shirtless selfies kind of way. Cassie said she hired him to bring in a younger crowd. The women loved him, especially the bored housewives. I didn't. There was something about him, the way he looked at Cassie, the way his hand lingered on her shoulder too long after a laugh. She brushed it off, said I was overreacting, said I was insecure. Maybe I was. I've got scars, literal and otherwise. I limp a bit on my right leg. I've aged. But damn it, I was still her husband. I was the man who came back from war, who stayed loyal through years of loneliness and danger. And yet, something was shifting under my feet, and I could feel it, like a tremor before the quake. I just didn't know yet that it wasn't just Nate. It was worse, much worse. The thing about betrayal is that it never comes with a warning label. It doesn't knock on your door wearing a ski mask and holding a knife. It slips in quiet, like steam under the door, like a shadow you almost ignore. That's how it started with Cassie. Subtle. Almost too subtle to notice unless you knew her the way I did. Every expression, every habit, every damn rhythm of her breathing at night. I started noticing how her phone was always face down, not just on the kitchen counter, but even in the shower. She'd take it with her and put it on the toilet seat, screen locked. I joke about it once, said something like, "What, you expecting a nuclear launch code while washing your hair?" And she just laughed, but it was too sharp, too forced. Then she started dressing different, more makeup for the gym, tighter tops. She said it was branding, said she had to look the part of a strong, sexy gym owner to attract female clients. And sure, that made a kind of business sense, but I wasn't blind. I saw how Nate looked at her. I saw how she looked back when she thought I wasn't watching. Then came the late nights. Just catching up on scheduling, she'd say. Inventory ran late. But once I drove over there around 10:30 p.m., I couldn't sleep. Thought I'd surprise her with coffee and maybe take her home. When I pulled into the lot, the lights were off, the front door locked. Her car was there. So was Nate's. I waited 15 minutes, then 30. No one came out. I went home that night and lay awake till dawn, staring at the ceiling like I was back in a tent in Kandahar, listening for mortars, except now the war was in my bed. I started checking the gym's cameras, or tried to. Cassie had changed the admin password, said there had been too many junk logins and it was easier if she just handled it. That was a red flag the size of a damn parachute. I didn't say anything at first. I wanted to believe her. But something broke in me that night. And once it cracked, I couldn't stop seeing the signs. One morning, I opened the gym early to let in a supply guy. While waiting, I went into the back office, her office, and that's when I saw the second pair of boxers. Not mine. Not Nate's. Different size, different brand, folded neatly in the bottom drawer next to a spare yoga mat. There's no damn reason for boxers to be in that drawer. I put them back. Quietly. Like a coward, like a man afraid of what he already knew. Over the next few weeks, I watched it unfold in slow motion. Her tone changed. Her eyes stopped meeting mine. She flinched when I touched her, pulled away when I tried to hold her. Ellie even started asking, "Is Mom mad at you?" I didn't know what to say. Then I noticed a guy named Jared, one of the new clients, started showing up more often. Big dude. Older than Nate, maybe 40? Drove a black Charger with red stripes, real flashy. He started taking Cassie out to lunch after her classes. I caught them once at a sushi place, sitting on the same side of the booth. She told me it was business development. I told her she was full of shit. That night, we had our first real fight in months. She screamed that I was paranoid, controlling, that I didn't know how to relax, that I was still fighting ghosts from war, and she was tired of tiptoeing around my trauma. That one hit hard, and it was calculated because she knew that's where it would hurt most. After that, things got colder. She slept in the guest room to get better rest. We barely spoke. She stayed out later. She stopped wearing her wedding ring. I wanted to believe it was still salvageable, that we were just going through something, but deep down, I knew. I wasn't competing with one man. I was competing with two, and I was losing. Quietly. Painfully. Completely. It all snapped one Friday night, and I still remember the exact moment like it's burned into the back of my eyelids. I had come home early from the gym after canceling a client session. I just couldn't focus anymore. The air between me and Cassie had grown so thick I could almost taste the bitterness, like iron on the tongue. We hadn't touched each other in over 3 weeks. She barely said anything that wasn't transactional. But that night, her car wasn't in the driveway when I got home. I texted her, no response, called, straight to voicemail. I stood in the kitchen, staring at the fridge like it was going to explain something. And that's when I did something I'd told myself I wouldn't do. I took the spare key to her office and drove to the gym. It was almost 11 p.m. Parking lot was empty except for her SUV and that damn black Charger. I cut the engine, sat there in the dark. My pulse was a dull drumbeat in my ears. I knew what I was going to see, but knowing and seeing, those are two different worlds. I unlocked the back door with the spare key, careful to stay quiet. Lights were off in the front, but the faint hum of music came from the stretching room near the back, one of the smaller private rooms with padded floors and tinted windows. My boots made no sound on the rubber mats as I approached. The door was cracked just enough for me to see. And what I saw, I wish I hadn't. Cassie was on all fours, naked, her ass in the air. Nate, that smug, tatted bastard, was behind her, grunting like a fucking animal. And Jared was standing in front of her, one hand in her hair, the other holding himself. She was moaning, not softly, not ashamed. It wasn't some impulsive mistake. It was rehearsed, comfortable, routine. I didn't move, didn't breathe. I watched for maybe 10 seconds that felt like an hour. Then I stepped back, shut the door softly, and walked out. I didn't say a word. didn't confront them. I got in my truck, drove 2 blocks, and parked on the side of the road. I stared out the windshield for God knows how long, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned bone white. Everything in my life until that moment, the war, the surgeries, the long nights alone overseas, none of it compared to the quiet devastation that crawled into my chest that night. I was just a placeholder in my own marriage. I had been for months, maybe years. I thought about going back and kicking the door open, beating both of them until my fists bled. But what would that solve? I'd go to jail, lose my daughter, lose everything. So I did something different. I drove to a cheap motel outside town, paid cash, and didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, shaking. The next morning, I went home like nothing happened. Cassie came back around 9 a.m., hair still wet from a shower at the gym, smelling faintly of men's cologne she didn't notice. She kissed me on the cheek like she was just a little late from yoga. I almost laughed in her face. But I stayed quiet. I started planning. I knew there had to be cameras inside. I just had to find a way in. That Sunday, I faked a power outage in the gym's front half, told her I'd handle the electrician stuff. She bought it. While she went out with Ellie for brunch, I installed a small hidden camera above the private room, the same one where she let them use her like some community toy. I told myself I needed evidence, for the divorce, for the court, for my own damn sanity. I didn't expect what I captured 2 days later. This time, she wasn't even trying to hide it. They laughed about me, about how military guys never know what's happening at home. She said I was dead inside, that I only made her feel like a wife when I was angry. Jared called me Captain Trauma. Nate said I was too disciplined to notice a good fucking. They all laughed. Then she said the words that finally broke something in me. I hope he finds out. Maybe then I can finally be free. Not sorry, not scared, just done. That's when I realized she wasn't cheating because she was lost. She was cheating because she'd already left. Her body just hadn't packed yet.
I waited another week, not because I was unsure. I was done the second I heard her say she wanted to be free, but because I needed everything in order. I wanted her to feel what I felt, if only for a moment. I backed up the footage to a hidden USB, encrypted it, and gave it to my buddy Greg, another Army vet, now a divorce lawyer. He didn't say much when he watched the first minute, just looked at me and said, "We'll make this clean, quiet. You'll get the house, and custody if you want it." But the night I confronted her wasn't clean. It wasn't quiet. It was a Friday, just like the night I found her. Cassie came home in her usual post-gym glow, yoga pants hugging her like armor, hair tied up, eyes sparkling like nothing in the world could go wrong. She asked if I wanted Thai takeout. I said sure. While she ordered, I went to the bedroom and placed the USB in her top drawer, right under the lacy red lingerie she used to wear for me, the same one she now wore for them. When dinner was done, I told her we needed to talk. She sat across from me at the table, chewing pad thai, legs crossed, half listening like I was bringing up taxes or some errand she forgot. I said, "I knew about you, Nate, and Jared." Her fork paused. Just for a second. That was all I needed. She didn't deny it, didn't scream, didn't cry. She just set the fork down, wiped her mouth, and looked at me like she was suddenly exhausted. "How long have you known?" "Long enough to catch it on video," I said. That made her flinch. She turned pale. "You what?" "Don't worry, I didn't share it. Yet." She stood up, trembling now. "You invaded my privacy." I slammed my hand on the table. "Privacy? You fucked 2 guys in the business we built together. One of them in my goddamn office, on my bench. You think I care about your privacy?" She opened her mouth but couldn't speak. She just stood there, silent, caught between shame and anger. "Why?" I asked. "Just tell me why. I deserve that." She didn't look at me. "Because I felt nothing anymore. You weren't here. You were never here, even when you were home. It was like living with a ghost." "So you fuck Nate? Jared? What, that makes it better?" They listened. They made me feel like a woman again, not just a mother, not just your damn support system. She said it like a confession and an accusation at once. You were gone so long, and when you came back, your body was here, but your soul stayed overseas. Then you should have left me, I said. Not lied, not humiliated me. Her eyes filled with tears, but I didn't feel sorry for her. I felt nothing, like my heart had packed up and left already. You going to show the video to Ellie? She asked, whispering. No. But you're going to tell her, in front of me, and then you're going to leave this house tonight. Where would I go? Not my problem. She sank into the chair like she'd been shot. Her head dropped into her hands. Please don't take her from me. You took yourself from her, I said, long before you got on your knees for Nate. It was the first time I saw her break, truly break. She sobbed like a child, but I didn't reach for her, didn't comfort her. I stood, walked to the door, and said, "You've got an hour to get your stuff." Then I changed the locks. I stepped outside, sat on the porch, and watched the sunset over the pines. She left quietly. No begging, no screaming, just silence. And the next morning Ellie asked where her mom went. I told her the truth. Not the dirty version, just the real one. She hurt us, and she needs time away to figure herself out. My daughter looked at me and nodded. She was weird lately anyway. We held each other in the kitchen, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was barely surviving.
The weeks after she left were strange. It was like the air in the house changed. The silence wasn't heavy anymore, it just was. I'd wake up in the mornings and no longer expect to hear her footsteps down the hall. Her voice was gone, her music and the shower, that nervous tapping of her foot on the hardwood floor when she was lying. All of it vanished, like she'd never been there at all. She didn't fight. She didn't beg to come back. She didn't truly apologize. She just disappeared. Moved in with a friend, according to my daughter Ellie. But I heard from people around town that they saw her holding hands with Nate at the mall, like a real couple. As for Jared, I don't think she saw him again. He stopped showing up at the gym altogether. Maybe he was ashamed or scared. I never threatened anyone, but they all knew I'm a man who's seen death, and that shows in your eyes. Ellie and I started settling into our new reality. She transferred to a different school, one closer to my house, and I started driving her every morning. We'd talk during the drive, listen to her pop songs that I could barely tolerate, and laugh about dumb stuff. For the first time in a long time, I actually felt like a dad, not just a man stuck between deployments and trauma. The gym was still mine. I changed the name, took down every photo of Kelsey, repainted the walls, got rid of the furniture she'd picked, hired a new front desk staff. People respected me. Some clients, after hearing what happened, just shook my hand. One guy said, "I don't know how you held it together." I would have snapped. But I held it together because I had to. When you've seen friends die in a desert with your name on their lips, you don't let cheaters destroy you. You can't. 3 months later, I filed for divorce. The court didn't drag things out. I had the footage, the witnesses, the lawyer. Kelsey didn't fight it. She signed everything in silence. I kept the house, the gym, the truck, and most importantly, Ellie. She stayed with me, not because of a judge, by choice. She told her mom point blank, "I don't trust you. I saw your eyes when you lied to Dad. You were already gone emotionally long before he found out." Kelsey cried, but tears don't reverse betrayal. I started therapy, not just because of the cheating, but because of everything. The deployments, the coming home, the silence, the slow crumbling of the life I thought I built. And honestly, it helped. I wasn't perfect. I had shut down emotionally. I had become distant, but I never cheated. I never destroyed what we had. 6 months after the divorce, I met someone, Lauren. She came to the gym as a client. She laughed easily, spoke to me like a real person. For the first time in years, I felt seen. Not as a veteran, not as a broken man,
not as the guy whose wife screwed 2 other men, just me. We started with coffee, then walks, and one evening sitting on my back porch while Ellie showed her old middle school photos on her phone, I realized I'm not broken. They tried to break me, but I'm still standing. And somehow, I've learned how to trust again. As for Kelsey, she still sends Ellie the occasional birthday gift or short message, but she doesn't ask to come back. I think she knows her life was always about escaping. Mine was about endurance. And the truth is, you can run from your husband, your house, your child, but you can never outrun yourself. And I stayed, and I survived.